Hello, I'm Traci Hong, and I'm an associate professor at the College of Communication. Thank you, Jean-Luc and Eric, for organizing the speaker series, and thank you to Brian for making this virtual talk so seamless. Today, I will talk in greater detail about one completed study and end with a one-slide synopsis of a related study that just got underway. Now, this pandemic has brought about many changes, and notably on social media, it brought about extensive content moderation, mostly in the form of an AI human hybrid mechanism. Instagram implemented perhaps its most aggressive content moderation early on in the pandemic. We can conceive content moderation is essentially a technological intervention, and the intended effect of the Instagram content moderation is clear: reduce COVID-19 misinformation. So I originally conceived the study to evaluate the effects of this intervention, but like so many technological interventions, it's the unintended effects that are most interesting. Next slide, please. Here is the study design for what I conceive to be a natural experiment. Data was collected at 3 time points and all in real time. This is particularly important for the data collection one because it represents the baseline for comparison before Instagram removed the content and redirected traffic on its platform. Around February 9th, if you click on hashtag coronavirus, you would see the pop-up window on the upper right-hand corner directing you to the CDC. Also at this time, Instagram did what they call proactive tweets by removing content that their global third-party fact checkers deemed to be inaccurate. So for data one, we collected over 38,000 Instagram posts with hashtag coronavirus and randomly sampled over 3,700 posts stratified by date. To assess the short-term effects, we relied on a publicly available data set. To assess the long-term effects, we collected over 600,000 Instagram posts and randomly sampled over 3,200 posts stratified by date. Collectively, this is a sample of over 9,000 posts with over 22,000 associated comments. For the images, we used human coders to label 1, the misinformation, and 2, the race of the people in the images. For the comments, we used machine learning techniques to detect emotions in the comments, and 2, whether the comments were toxic. Here, I want to acknowledge the research team, my collaborator, Dr. Derry Wajawa in computer science, my doctoral advisee, Jiaxi Wu from Emerging Media Studies at the College of Communication, and many graduate students from the College of Communication, as well as the Department of Computer Science. Next slide, please. So what did we find? The intended effect of reducing misinformation was observed, but there was also an unintended effect in reduction of toxicity. Toxicity is content that is harmful. We used an off-the-shelf tool to detect toxicity. We used Welch's F to compare the mean scores for misinformation and toxicity across the 3 time points. The green arrow below represents the Instagram content moderation intervention. There was a significant decreasing trend in misinformation. For toxicity, there was a significantly fewer toxic comments in the short term compared with baseline. A slight increase in toxicity going from short term to long term, although the difference between the two are not significant. Next slide, please. For the emotions expressed in the comments, joy increases across this time period. But if you look at the red, the black, and blue lines, you see that anger, fear, and sadness significantly decreases from baseline to short term, but it bounces back in the long term such that it is at a similar rate as it was in baseline. Not depicted here is that there is a significant decrease in the presence of East Asian people in the image posts. Now, when you look at these discrete emotions and the toxicity of the comments and compare them in post with East Asian versus post without Asian people, there are significant differences. Next slide, please. Compared with images with no Asians, images with East Asians had significantly more comments that were angry, toxic, and also a specific form of toxicity, which is identity hate. Identity hate is a content that is hatred towards people of a particular race, ethnicity, religion, and identity. Interestingly, though, when you look at joy, there is no significant difference between images with East Asian versus non-Asian, although there were more joyful comments when non-Asian people were present in the image. So an unintended effect of the Instagram content moderation is a reduction of anti-Asian sentiment. Next slide, please. Lastly, I end here with a brief synopsis of a related misinformation research study. This study is funded by BUCEED pilot grant mechanism. My collaborators include Dr. Veronica Wirtz at Global Health and Dr. Derry Wijawa from Computer Science. Our main aim is to develop big data methodology to measure vaccine hesitancy from both political and religious-based misinformation from 3 middle-income countries, Brazil, Nigeria, and Indonesia. These 3 countries have similar social media usage, and religious leaders are major sources for health information. Now, affluent countries have enjoyed an ample supply of vaccines, but distribution in low and middle income countries have been slow. And we believe this void may create a space for information to flourish. Our data spans 4 years with earlier years as our baseline comparison. We seek to test the hypothesis that vaccine hesitancy mediates the relationship between misinformation and vaccine uptake, and parse out the effects of political versus religious sources of misinformation. Thank you.